Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, it's Labor Day, so it's a little bit more sparse here, you know, just with it being Labor Day. So I think we've got to try harder than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Pretty good. Welcome to everybody here, and we'd especially like to say welcome to the people who are online, who are joining us online to here to Unity Spiritual Center, where we are about transforming lives and trying to make a positive difference in the world. My name is Dennis Ashley, and I'm the platform assistant this morning. So if you would, I'd love to have you take a moment now, silence your cell phones. But before you do, take a moment to go on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or Vine and say that you're here. And invite your friends to join us online. We want to begin by saying our opening affirmation, so I'm going to say it once and then I'll invite you to say it with me. There's only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. Together?
There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good.
Well, this morning we're going to hear from Reverend Gary, who's going to be sharing his Sunday message. It's entitled, How to Manifest Your Greater Good. And Jane will be leading the meditation. We're being blessed musically this morning by Scott Rednor and by Spirit Boy, so let's give them a big hand. And let me invite you to stand and we'll sing our community song.
Gathering a song. Yep.
This is our community song,
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Community song. Gathering a song? Get your energy going.
Now, this was a special time. We wanted to see if you could all hold the consciousness for 2 minutes.
My name is Jane Simmons, and I will be doing the announcements this morning. Before we begin, I want to, first of all, invite everyone to the Celebration of Life next Saturday for Vicki Solander Ortfeld. It'll be here next Saturday at 1 p.m., so please join us for that time of celebrating her life and sharing stories and just sharing our hearts in that time. All right. So, for the rest of the announcements, we have so many announcements that we had to do a separate sheet for all these things that are just happening in September alone. So, we decided that it was time for Announcements Jeopardy. So, pull out your pink sheets and shout out the answer when you think you know what it is. And we have some categories here. Our categories are thank yous, events, volunteer opportunities, FYI, and upcoming classes. So let's begin with thank yous. And the answer is Seahawks fans.
Who's providing treats today?
Who brought treats today? That's correct. Our treats have been brought by people who have been Seahawks fans for more than 5 years. And I wore my Seahawks colors just for that reason. Next week, we're asking people who have ever visited Unity Village to bring treats. And the following week, the choir will be blessing us not only with their music, but with their goodies. Let's try events. Are you ready? Yes. The answer is date and time of next Sisters in Spirit Women's Gathering.
What p.m. next Saturday?
Very good, Anne. Yes, very good. That's correct. The presentation will be on the alternatives to violence with Karen Dunmore and Cindy Nover, two of our AVP facilitators, next Saturday at 1. The next one is prayer vigil, walk the labyrinth, bring canned goods, fill in prayer request forms that are found in your handout. What are ways you can participate in World Day of Prayer on September 13th? You guys, you're just doing so well. Thank you. Here's the prayer list. It's right there in your handout. You can fill it in with first names and please print. All right, next one is volunteer opportunities. And we're going to begin with something that's both an event you can attend as well as offering volunteer opportunities. And here's the answer. Who to contact for 2018 Compassion Games opportunities, September 22nd.
Who are Hank and Joan Breckley?
Look at that, right there. Yes, contact Hank and Joan if you want to know more about it or if you want to get involved. Here we go. This is happening September 29th from 9 a.m. to noon. Landscape team is coming together, landscape cleanup. Come for half an hour, the whole morning. Whatever help you can give to beautify our grounds is greatly appreciated. Also, there is a need for a chipper to use that morning. If you have access to one, or if you have any questions, please see Frida Morgenstern. There she is, right there. All right, next category, FYI. And this question is the Daily Double. Here we go. The date when we return to 2 services at 9 and 11 and have the opportunity to give blood.
What is September 16th?
Awesome. Yes, September 16th. And you can sign up for giving blood with David at the desk by the front doors there today. They need new blood, he told me. They need new people who haven't done it before, people who have and haven't for a while, or if you're a regular, come on down. Okay. The date of next community member orientation meeting with Dr. Gary. Now, isn't that going to be a busy day? Yes. September 16th at 12:30. On that day, you can choose between 2 services, give blood, and then attend a community meeting, all on that same day. So bring your lunch. We're getting near the end, I promise. The next answer, date of next spirit group sign up. September 23rd at 12:30 p.m. So watch for that. And now we come to our final category. Yay, upcoming classes. Evolving Paradigms class, Wednesday, September 12th through October 24th.
What is James' class?
It's the class that I'm teaching this fall. And you can sign up to pre-register. There we go. Sign up to pre-register on here this is in your handout. Only pre-register if you can attend all 7, and then hand that form into the bookstore. And now it's time for Final Jeopardy.
Here is today's Final Jeopardy category.
And here is the question. This is the name of the fall class being led by Reverend David McClure.
Imagine the audacity.
What is Imagine the Audacity? Yes, that's right. And here to talk more about it is Reverend David himself in the flesh. Thank you all for being a part of Announcements Jeopardy.
Thank you, Jay.
And who is Jeff Hunter?
Jeopardy champion.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here to inform you that your mission, should you be bold enough to accept it, is to be all that the universe created you to be. Your standard of achievement is this: nothing less than your very best will do in the kind of world that we're living in right now. Would you agree? Yes. All right. All the world needs you. It will need all of you at the top of your game. I have one word for you this morning, and that is audacity. Audacity, among other things, means boldness. And when is the last time you were really, really bold about life? The world needs audacious people right now, people like you, people who not only think outside the box, but think outside the world and what can be done. Would you like to be bolder than you've ever been before? Yes. All right. Would you be bolder if you knew you had 12 powers active in you that could transform your life and work with you to change the world? Would that be okay for you? Powers that transport you past your limitations, obstacles, doubts, and into a new you. That's, if you're bold enough, then you can sign up for my class. My class is called, what is it called? It's called, Imagine the Audacity. Yeah. It's based on a book by Linda Martello Whitsitt, which is in the bookstore. It's Thursdays, it's twice in the morning at 10 o'clock, after evening at 6:30, and it's going to be in the chapel. You can take the class for credit as well, and there's a sign-up sheet at the welcome desk. Thank you very much.
Is my microphone on? Is this a problem? Okay, now you can hear me, right? So you want to switch to the center update up here? Did you switch it already yet? All right, so this is a center update with Dr. Gary. I don't have enough time. This is Labor Day weekend. There's nobody here for the first time, so it's safe. No, maybe not. I don't know. Well, I don't know. There are some people. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. So sorry. So sorry. But see, this is good because this is how we normally are when we're smooth, when we're flawless, when we're impeccable. So anyway, I just want to share a couple of things, just very briefly. I know there's been a lot of announcements before we get into the talk part of the program today. So I want to mention that unity began as Charles Filmer used to say, unity is a link in the educational movement that was inaugurated by Jesus Christ. And our objective is to discern the truth and to prove the truth that was taught by Jesus. And so if one of the things, if you haven't noticed about us, Unity Spiritual Center, we're all about education, all about learning about how this all works. And how to create a greater good in our life. And so Unity Spiritual Institute has all of the finest minds and ministers and teachers in the entire Unity and New Thought movement offering classes to all of the folks in our churches online. And so you can go to Unity Spiritual Institute and look at the classes, the subjects, and you can start taking courses that might be of interest to you and help yourself along your journey. And so Reverend David is an instructor at Unity Spiritual Institute and teaches a few classes, and so does Dr. Jane and I, and there is a track to becoming a licensed Unity teacher if that's of interest, or perhaps even moving towards becoming a credentialed leader or a minister someday. And so we want to make sure that you are aware of what we offer here locally is just to kind of jumpstart your transformational journey, but it's really important for you to take it deeper, and a way to do that is through looking at some of the online classes that are available and affordable to you. And then finally, as you've heard already, that we have a community member orientation scheduled for September 16th. And one of the things you'll be noticing as we begin the fall season, as we move into the next year, is that things will be starting to happen on a more consistent, orderly basis. So we'll be having community orientation meetings every other month. And so that's an opportunity for those who are new to Unity Spiritual Center to come find out what it means to deepen in your relationship to our organization and our community. We ask that you say yes to 3 things: simply deepening your own spiritual practice through participation in spirit groups or online classes, or attending the classes that we offer here during the week. We ask that you participate in some form of meaningful service, opportunities that are here that you learn about through talking to people at the welcome desk, or participating in spirit groups where we have a service project for each of those groups. And then finally, we ask that you say yes to designating some form of automatic contribution that we can count on, because absent of knowing what we can count on, it's very difficult for us to manage our expenses. And so with that said, I'll sign off now, and we'll get ready for our meditation experience. Thank you for your attention.
So I invite you to now take a moment with me as we enter the silent sanctuary of our hearts. And so this is a time to sit back in our seats, to let go of any cares or worries that we've brought with us today. Close our eyes if that's comfortable for us, and begin to follow the breath in and out. And as we do, we imagine breathing right into the heart as we bring into our mind's eye someone or something that we deeply appreciate, and we allow that feeling to be activated. And so imagine breathing into the heart, allowing that feeling to grow and expand beyond the heart, filling our bodies with this high vibration of gratitude and appreciation. And now with the next breath, let it expand beyond the body as we radiate this coherent energetic field. And we fill this sacred sanctuary. Each one of us is here to be the presence of peace and compassion, here to bring that energy to the world. And as we dig deeper in that sacred sanctuary of the heart, we discover the truth of who we are. And so I invite you to continue breathing into the heart, letting it expand. As we enter the silence. Thank you, Blessed Spirit, for this truth that sets us free, that we are here to be the one to make the difference in our world. That who we are matters. That what we bring matters. And as we work with this internal state, we see the outer world transformed. And for this truth, we give grateful thanks. And so it is. Amen.
So part of our theme for over the summer has been all about evolving, transforming, awakening, growing up, cleaning up, showing up, really looking at the depths of our interiors so that we can begin to live our lives from the inside out, rather than the outside in. And so another way of looking at evolution, evolving ourselves, moving out of a sense of not enough and into a greater sense of who and what we've come here to be, is learning how to manifest a greater good, because the mechanism of manifesting a greater good in our life causes us to have to work to evolve beyond our yesterday's self, because if we try to use the same self to create something that is different, more expansive, more fulfilling than what we're having right now, we have to use a different dimension of ourself, because our current life is being sustained by the very mind-body expression that we are living ourselves out of. And so until we kind of inform and reform this dimension of our self system that is participating in creating the quality of our life, we don't get to create something greater because we're kind of stuck in the limits of our own self-imposed concepts. And so our effort to kind of transform includes learning how to get in touch with your own sense of purpose and passion and recognize, in order for me to fulfill this, I need stuff. You know, how many of you need more money to fulfill your purpose on your planet, on this planet? Raise your hand if you need more money to fulfill your purpose. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that's something that's needed. Because if you're going to do great things in this world, you need to kind of leverage what's required in order to kind of make the difference. And how many of you need more health and well-being in your life? You know, I mean, that's something that we should kind of know that it's our birthright, but we kind of have to kind of overcome what's in the way of that. And how many would like a fulfilling career, or I mean, we can just open ourselves up and see that there is within us a beckoning, a calling, an inborn desire to be more. And yet when we kind of get down to the labor of our life, this being a Labor Day weekend, we see that most of our effort is trying to get something, make something happen, coax something from our external world in order for us to feel that our life is working. And so I'm wanting to talk today about how to manifest a greater good in an alignment with brain science, quantum science, spiritual principles, with the teachings of Jesus, because that's a part of our job in terms of creating a world that works for everyone. That when we learn how to become our own kind of shaman, so to speak, when we learn that we can actually manipulate and alter what we're having as our life experience by simply coming from a different place from within, then all of a sudden we feel a sense of empowerment. That while our life looks and feels very crazy and difficult at times, we don't feel so victimized by what we're having. We feel like we can work with it. I can work with this. And if we can have that sense that we can work with something, we can have that sense of personal empowerment that gives us access to a depth of being able to take the next deeper steps, and that is aligned with the creative process that is bringing forth our life experience, regardless whether or not that life lives as a sense of our greater good or the life that lives as our yesterday self. The creative process still works exactly the same. And I want to reveal, show you, explain what that creative process is, because when we understand the why something is important, the how becomes so much easier. And so that's what we're going to be doing today, is we're going to be looking at this whole idea of if what is needed, if part of our greater good requires more money, let us just say that there is a capacity of the universe to provide that. But we have to align with the dimension of the creative process that enables us to bring forth that. We might be thinking in terms of greater health. Okay, let's put that on the table, and let's say that the same process enables us to draw into our life greater health. If we want more fulfilling relationships, if we want to attract a life partner into our life, the same principles apply. If we want to, you know, climb up the ladder, have some kind of fulfillment or accomplish some great world work, there is a dimension of this process that can make that happen as well. And for the purpose of this talk today, I'm going to pick one that I'm going to it's going to be my thing that I'm going to manifest, that I'm wanting to manifest, and I'm going to explain the principles that I'm going to use to manifest this. That's hangar space. Because I've just finished my airplane. My airplane's all built, and it's just in pieces. It's just in parts. I have to put the whole thing together, and I can't do that without a hangar, and then I can't offer rides at the Hollyberry Ball until my plane's built. I can't fundraise, have opportunities to raise more funds for Unity Spiritual Center because I can't give rides and do aerial photography, things like this. So we need to manifest a hangar. Okay, and so we'll talk about what I'm going to be doing to kind of bring this about and look at the principles that are involved, and then you can just, wherever you are in your own journey, and everybody's at a different place, and maybe this talk for you today isn't necessarily landing on some deeper need of your deeper self, but I'm wanting you to kind of be with the principle of what this is about. Maybe for you it's not about manifesting a greater good, but it's just finding a sense of peace, a sense of being able to settle into a moment knowing that all things are working together for good. Maybe that's what it is, but the same principles apply. So here we go. I'm going to share a movie, I think. Close your eyes while I look and see what I got next. Okay. I'm going to share a movie. I'm just letting the sound people know the movie's going to come up. We may need to adjust the volume on the sound. But it's a movie about Dr. Joe explaining how this process begins to be important to us with respect to how we interact with the quantum field and create our own personal reality. And it's important for us to know this and for us to have an understanding as to what is the mechanics, the circuitry behind how we manifest our own personal reality and the things that we're experiencing in our life. And then I'm going to unpack what he has to share, and so it can be pulled into a spiritual practice. So here we go. See what you think.
How many people in this audience actually believe in the idea that the way you think has some effect on your life? That your thoughts create your life? You believe that, yes? So your brain, according to neuroscience, is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a record of your environment. It's a record, an artifact of your past. So if you believe this, then does your environment control your thinking, or does your thinking control your environment? So then, as the environment turns on different circuits in your brain, you begin to think equal to your environment. As you see the same people and go to the same places and do the same things at the same time, it's the external environment that's turning on different circuits in your brain, causing you to think equal to everything that you know. And as long as you think equal to everything that's familiar or known to you, what do you keep creating more of? Same life. Now, the quantum law is still applying to you. You're just thinking equal to everything that you know, and you keep creating more of the same. To change, to truly change, is to think greater than your environment. So can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is literally changed to look like the event has already happened? Neuroscience says it's absolutely possible. Now, your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. It's that simple. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's sitting here today, you, has created the present personal reality called your life. Would you agree? Would you also agree then, if you wanted to create a new personal reality, that on a fundamental level you would have to change the thoughts that you are thinking, the behaviors and habits that you're demonstrating, and the emotions that you've memorized that's become part of your identity? And most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it never works.
So what we're wanting to begin to acknowledge is that in order to have a different experience, in order to create a greater good in our life, we have to actually, what happened to my, okay, we have blackness here. Let's see what happened. Okay, hang on a second. Never mind, everything's okay. My bad. So we need to understand that part of the effort is that we have to alter the way we think and the way we make meaning in order to create a different way of being with what we're having, in order to have open up a different potentiality in our life. Otherwise, the same thing gets created over and over. Can you see how that's important? But not only that, that's one thing. To be able to open up that portal, we have to kind of put a different head on. As Paul says, let that mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. We have to kind of shift out of that self system, and here's the slide. We have to shift out of our habits of being if we're to step into a creative process and engage the dimension of ourself that can override this circuitry. You see, this representation just illustrates the circuitry that is a mind-body, that has a mind-body component, but the circuitry itself creates a kind of self-system that we have to transcend if we are to override the circuitry that has us replicating our current life patterns when we're unconscious. And so in order to override that circuitry, we have to work around some of the obstacles that are inherently a part of simply the mechanics of perception and the way in which our body-mind operates. And so part of what I'm wanting to talk about is that workaround. How can we work around our habits of being? If I'm in the habit of being not enough, how can I manifest more money in my life? Well, we do have to address the habit of being not enough, and that's what we do in the Q process. But we also have to condition our circuitry to operate and have the experience of being able to create other habits that are in alignment with the creative process that brings forth our greater good. And so to that aim, here are the principles that we need to kind of keep in mind. First of all, we need to understand, as Jesus says to his disciples, lift up your eyes, for the fields are already white unto the harvest, which means that already there is in the field of infinite possibilities is the very thing that we want to draw into our life. We have to know that that is the foundation, that anything that exists in form has come from the field, has come from this dimension that Jesus describes as the kingdom of God. And as we recognize that it's already there, it's just that it's in the field, and that the field is where it comes from, then we'll detach from focusing on the form, the thing itself, because the thing itself is an effect. It finds us when we are in alignment with that potentiality and connected to it and sustain that connection. Albert Einstein said that the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. The field controls all of the things that we have as our life experience. That's why Jesus says that for us to engage in that intent, to seek it, to live from that place, that is that dimensional of ourselves, within ourselves. And so as we look at the field of infinite possibilities, we need to understand that the first step is to know that whatever is our greater good, and we have to have some sense of knowing what we want. So I'm going to say I want a hangar space. Okay, you can fill in your own blank. And so we just need to know that in the field, it's not in a visible state. Someone once said, only those who can see the invisible can do the impossible. And so seeing this field of potentiality and knowing how we can manifest from that field enables us to, once we understand the mechanism of how this thing works, then we can get with the practice itself. But this is about understanding the mechanism, then we'll get to the practice. So if this field is the kingdom of God, the field of potential, then all possibilities exist, including what we're currently having. That exists in the field. We just drew it out of the field because of our limiting belief, if we're dealing with the possibility of not enough. And so now we're going to focus on, let's say, we're going to focus on that money. It's in the field, all the money that we need. We're going to focus on, in the field, there is the perfect health, all that we need to bring forth what we need in that department. There is the perfect relationship. There is the perfect sense of fulfillment career, and there's my hangar space, too. It's in the field. And all I have to do is know that it's there, because that's the first step. That's the first step, and I have to be very clear that that's sort of what I'm wanting to bring forth. Okay, so once we're clear about that and we understand that, okay, the whole process now requires that I abandon looking out there and begin to do the creative process begin to do the practice within. And so I have to begin to develop a relationship with the interior of myself. And I'm not talking about, just thinking differently. I'm talking about being able to observe my self-system and my patterns and seeing what runs me. And that's why the Q process is so important. And then to begin to see that I can detach my awareness from the forms of my life, what I'm having, and begin to use my awareness to decide what I'm wanting to attract to myself. And as I understand that this is a principle, I become really clear with respect to what it is that is pulling me, and it's connected to my passion. It's connected to what is going to open me up. And it doesn't matter what it is that you choose to manifest, it's you just demonstrating that you have the capacity to bring forth the greater good. That's a part of your training that is needed right now. We need to understand that we need to train ourselves to be able to create our own state independent of what we're having, so that our own state becomes the governing agency over what becomes of us, as opposed to what our life is trying to reflect. And so this is what Dr. Joe means about being greater than our environment. And when we understand that thoughts kind of are the transmission of our intent, and when we understand that our felt connection to that is what draws it into our life, then we have to create a connection, a sustained, elevated emotional connection to that very thing that we want to draw into our life, and we cannot separate ourselves from it. Because if we do, we lose it, and then something else takes over. So just a little bit more understanding about this field thing, because sometimes we're just not used to hearing it this way, and don't necessarily come to church to hear about quantum physics. But Albert Einstein would argue that that's probably a pathway to God if you just look closely enough. So the field is all about energy. It's about information. It's about intelligence. There's no time. It's the dimension of ourself that's invisible. You can't touch it, but it's the dimension out of which all arises. It's source. And the forms of life are the effects of that field, the matter, the energy, the time, space. There's also polarity, duality. There's also conditions like separation. And so we're operating, and this is the dimension of our entire being. And so if we want to create a different form in our life, we have to work with the field. That's the point I wanted to make. And also to understand that it is our feeling that connects us to what we're trying to draw into as form in our life. And so looking at now, okay, you're hearing, I'd be clear as to what it is that I'm wanting to bring forth. I have to feel a sense that this is, I'm connected to it, but here's the next step. And that is, we have to feel connected to that greater good as if it is happening now, so that our brain doesn't know the difference between what we're trying to generate as our felt internal state and what it is experiencing out of all of its inputs. Because our brain doesn't know the difference between an internal input and an external input. As we begin to dimensionalize this felt sense of what we're connected to, and as we don't place any, as we don't separate ourselves from it through asking the question, how is this going to come to be? Or when is this going to happen? Can you see how those two questions automatically separate yourself from being connected to that in the now moment? So the next important thing is that we need to create a memory of this future that we're trying to draw into our life. And in order to create a memory of the future, you have to, it's almost as if you remember the to-done list talk, it's almost as if you write a description of something as if it's already happened, and then you move towards that event, experiencing the felt sense of how it has been completed in its most optimistic and opportune fashion. In a very similar way, we're trying to stay connected to something that is in the field. There's nothing that's pending other than our welcoming it into our life. In order for that to happen, we have to create a memory of that possibility and bring it into our consciousness and fool our brain, trick our brain into believing that it is what we're having now. That's the workaround. And the things that help us sustain that workaround are mind movies. For instance, a mind movie, we've talked about mind movies, and we've kind of gone in cycles with the mind movies because this is, you kind of have to know the kind of where the mind movie process fits into the transformative process. A mind movie is a way of really creating those elements of the felt sense, the image, the clarity, the sense of welcoming this into your life, the sense that helps you transcend your own sense of not enough because you see that this is something that's for you and it's something that you want to bring forth. And so if you're interested in kind of re-engaging your own effort to create a mind movie, Karen Dunmore, Karen, where are you? Stand up so you can see you. Karen uses mind movies, and she wants to help you create your own mind movie for creating your own greater good. So if you would like to avail yourself, contact Karen. She'll help you out. And then there's all of Dr. Joe's stuff. If you go on his website, you can get these meditations that help you reinforce what I've just said and helps you listen every day to remind yourself of the principles of how we really engage this creative process so that we begin to retrain that circuitry that defines us. We still have to work that circuits. We still have to create habits, and then we have the habit of being and forming our habit of doing and habit of having and habit of feeling and habit of believing and habit of perceiving and habit of sensing. All of these things begin to shift when we begin to create from the inside out rather than having that self-system run from the outside in. You have to try it, and you have to kind of experience it and play with it. And I know many of you are already experiencing it happening. I know many of you are because you tell stories, you tell us about what's going on. And it's just a matter of being in the practice, but you just can't try it like a vitamin. Okay, I'll see what happens today. It has to become a way in which you recondition your body to a different mind. And until the body gets the message that, oh, we don't have to feel not enough anymore because we're so enjoying this welcoming of this greater good, until that flips, that won't flip all by itself. You have to do the deeper work. So when? Don't ask the question, when's this going to happen? Don't set time limits. Now, there's a different process for things that have to happen at a certain time. This is not that process. So don't set a process when you're wanting to work on dimensionalizing something that doesn't exist in the world, but yet let the when be in God's time. And don't ask the question, how is this possible? Because both these questions take you out of your connection to the field. They place you directly into the form. Can you feel that shift? And so, what if we just eliminated those two elements of how we work with our lives? Well, we can't because we have responsibilities. We live in this world. But when it comes to this deeper work with the dimension of ourself, we have to cast these human needs aside for a greater purpose. And I think that's the end of all my slides, and I've just run out of So here's the thing. I know what I wanted to talk about. I want to finish up with just exactly what I'm doing. So I've been, as many of you knew, I was able to get my wings a few months ago. And I had to manifest the money. That was $10,000. It just didn't happen out of the sky. I didn't want to use my credit card. And the wings lived secondary. We had to pay off other stuff. So it wasn't like I could just kind of have my wings and now I get to manifest a hangar. No, we had to, over the last year and a half, had to manifest a lot of things to shift our state in order for the wings to be in integrity with our financial state. And so here's a picture of the plane in our garage, and there it is with the propeller, the engine runs, and there's me kind of working on the last wing, and now that's the picture of what it's going to look like. And we have some property in Kettle Falls, and we'll just put a little landing strip, and there we go. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to manifest a hangar space. Okay, so how am I going to do this? Okay, well, I'm already immersed in how it feels to be in the experience of, bless you, building the airplane. So I don't have, there's no sense of worrying about generating that. And I have to have a clarity about what it is that I'm wanting. I'm wanting a space. I don't have to have my own space. I just need a space in which I can complete the project, do my taxi testing, get it airworthiness, FAA, sign off on it, and then that phase will be done. But in order for that to happen, I have to kind of be very, very clear and know that that's finding me. It's in the field. I don't have to question it or doubt it. I know a hangar's space is going to find me. I just don't know when or how. But I don't need to know that. And if I don't go there, I amplify what has to happen. Now, if that's all there was to it, we would be done, but there's just a couple more things to make this talk complete. And that is, first of all, I need to reiterate that we have to focus on the field, not on the form. And we can understand how Jesus would admonish us. Take no thought for your life. This is why. He wanted to gift his disciples with a capacity to transcend the limits of self-system. And so he wanted the disciples, if we abandon trying to fix the form, what are we left with? We have to interact with the field. And that's what I'm inviting you to welcome, is abandoning trying to fix the form and opening yourself to being guided to begin to interact with the field, because that's what's going to help the world. All right, so how do we manifest a greater good? Okay, get your cameras out and take a picture of this next slide. Here it is. Okay, focus on the feeling of being in the experience of your greater good right now. So you need to stay connected to the feeling. And you just whatever you need to do, you just have to stay connected to the feeling of, I'm already in this experience of my greater good. I can see what that is, I can feel it, and I am basking in it. It may not be in this moment, but it doesn't have to be in the moment. I don't need it for it to be in the moment. I need it for it to find me. Here I am. I welcome it. And then the next thing is to abide in that awareness, because we have to maintain it. It's out there. And we can't engage in any behavior that doubts that. No behavior that doubts that. Then we have to feel or link the feeling to an icon. Some representation. The icon can be a mind movie that has embedded in it a song that helps amplify the feeling, that has embedded in it subliminal programming that helps rewire your thinking. And so there are technologies that can help us do this if we want to leverage that. We need to condition our body mind to stay connected to the felt experience of our greater good, because we have to override the conditioning of our body mind. The chemistry of our not enough has to kind of be dealt with. So we have to create the chemistry of our passion as being the chemical dissidence within our body that we're trying to retrain. We're trying to recondition our body to a different emotional state. We need to guard against any attention to how or when it will happen. And finally, and this is important too, and I'm going to end with this, you need to begin to, while I know that my hangar is out there and I'm drawing it to my life, I still have to follow the breadcrumbs. So I still have to, maybe someone will hear this talk and they think, oh, I know somebody who has a hangar space. Or maybe just like what happened yesterday, Jane and I were at our property in Kettle Falls, and we happened upon our neighbor who we had introduced herself or met for 7 years since we've owned the property. And in our conversation, we mentioned that we had a plane, and he said, well, there's an airstrip right there. 500 feet away, there's an airstrip. We didn't even know about it for 7 years. And so I don't know if that's where the hangar is going to be, but the point is that that's a breadcrumb. And so I begin to allow that fascination, that feeling, that wonderment begin to combine with all the feelings. And that's it. It's just that simple. But it has to be repeated. You have to sustain it. And you need to pick something that's easy for you to sustain in the beginning. So you demonstrate, oh, this is how it works. And once you see it works, then you can replicate it. And then you can use the same principle for other things. And we can build upon this conversation more as more and more of us get into this kind of, this dimension of our spiritual practice. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, and for forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names of God and the many paths to God, for we know that there's only one power and one presence, one life. So whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey of transformation, you are welcome here. We would especially like to welcome anybody who might be here for the first time. If this is your first time visiting with us, and if you feel comfortable, we'd love to have you raise your hand, and our ushers will give a gift packet of information to you. Got some right over here? Several. There you go, we got several people. Let's give them a big hand. And what you'll find is on the outside of the packet, there's a form that you can fill out to be added to our mailing list for our weekly e-news update and our quarterly newsletter. And if you're interested, just fill it in, drop it in the love offering bag as it comes around instead of feeling like you have to give it a donation today. Also, after the service, you can take this packet to our barista stand. You get a free latte. You can also take it to the bookstore and get a free copy of today's service. If you have any questions, you can ask any members of our welcome team. They're the ones with wearing the yellow scarves. Could we have the members of the welcome team stand up for a second so you can see them? Great. Wonderful. Over here, too. You're not dressed. And we'd also like to welcome our online viewers. And if everybody would just turn around and wave at the camera, all right? We're welcoming our online viewers. Thank you for joining us this morning. Now, it's time, let me invite you to stand. It's time for our welcome song. We're going to greet each other with a handshake, a hug, a high five, a namaste, whatever you like. And we will begin with our welcome song.
Together on the journey through the miracles inside. We are gathered.
That's the gong. Okay, guys. Good morning. My name is Jim Sledge. I am the treasurer on your board of trustees, and this is the time in our service where we express gratitude for your gifts and your offerings to this spiritual community. And it doesn't matter whether you're participating in some form of automatic giving or you're pushing a button somewhere or swiping. We appreciate your financial commitment to this amazing place. So if you would take those considerations into your heart, let's say our prosperity blessing together. I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole.
Join me, if you would, in saying thank you. So, Spirit of God, we say thank you for these gifts. We thank you to the people who have given them, and we know that they'll be used in so many different ways. And so it is, God. Amen. And just as we said, thanks for the financial gifts we're receiving here at Unity Spiritual Center. We also wanted to give a special thank you today to, I just wasn't sure what to call it, the World Travelers Special Guest Lecturers. What we've had is throughout the summer, we've had people who have been traveling all over the world, and they've come back to talk to our youth. And so we've had people from Morocco, Iran, India, Portugal. What are some of the other places, Jane? Nepal, Abu Dhabi, yes. So would everyone who's a part of that guest presentation, would you stand so we could give you a round of applause? Thank you so much. We are so grateful for the service that you've given. And can I have the chaplains come up? So our chaplains today are Al and Kathy. They've been holding the entire service in prayer, which one of our chaplains does every Sunday. If you have anything that's heavy on your heart or that you'd like to celebrate, you can pray with one of our chaplains and they'll hold it in prayer with you. They'll be at the front of the sanctuary right after the service. So Al and Kathy, thank you both very much. Also, you can fill in a prayer request form. Those are located in the seat right in front of you. You can put that in one of our prayer boxes. We have one up on stage. We have one out in the foyer. And our prayer team will pray with you for 7 days, and then we also send it back to Unity Village, where it's prayed over with silent unity for 30 days. Also, if you know of someone who's in the hospital and who would like a visitation from part of our chaplains, there's a visitation request form too. So we would love to have you complete that and put that in the prayer box also. So I can hear sounds out there, so it sounds like our children have arrived. So let's welcome them in with We Are Singing. Now, this is the first Sunday of the month, so that means that it is Birthday Sunday. So, yay! So if you have a birthday in September, we would love to have you stand and we can sing you the birthday song. Anybody with a birthday in September? And that's the kids too. Happy birthday. And we are always grateful for all of our young people here at Unity. Would you join me in giving the children's blessing? Together?
Be the love you are, sing the song you hear, share your joy of life with people far and near.
And let's know that for ourselves.
Be the love we are, sing the song we hear, share our joy of life with people far and near.
And now if the kids would like to go back with the people that they came with, that would be great. Now please stand if you're able and join together for our closing prayer followed by the peace song. Together.
The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And that's the truth.
So this week, practice trying to not be looking for how something can happen, nor when it has to happen. Try it. See what happens. Train your mind.